Good afternoon. Welcome to South TV with me, Monica Kunzeka Guta, and George Brown. Today we carry on. This is week 2 of ReWirement for Success. And today George wants to talk to us about the difference between the New Year's resolutions, which we all make, by the way, and taking 5% more responsibility for areas of our lives. So, George, over to you, George.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to mention New Year's resolutions because I was on a Toastmasters call this week, and that was their theme, New Year's resolutions. And then I had to do a table topics, and they wanted me to talk about New Year's resolutions. I said, I don't do New Year's resolutions. I do 5% more responsibility, tailoring towards 100% more responsibility. So I don't do New Year's resolutions. And over the 6 weeks, we're going to talk about why the difference between a New Year's resolution and taking more responsibility for your life. And I want to clarify what I mean by responsibility. I will do that again today so that people understand that I'm not talking about doing more work. I'm talking about just being more responsible by responding to the events in your life. Because typically when we're struggling, we're reacting. When I was faced with retirement, I was reacting to that word and to the fact that my career for 45 years was going to stop, and I slammed the brakes on. I don't know what I'm going to do next. So it's not that you're taking more responsibility by doing more work per se. It's by just responding to get the outcome you want. So sometimes people get all nervous about, what do you mean? I've already taken responsibility. I'm responsible. I'm working all the time. Yeah, it's just to be more responsible, and that's how you rewire your thinking. Does that make sense? But when people do, let's be honest, you and me, when you do New Year's resolutions, how long do they last? Do we do them for the whole year? Do we do them for 2 years? Continuously for 2 years, or do we just go ahead and I'm gonna go on a diet, or I'm gonna get more exercise. I'm gonna sign up to the gym, get more exercise. Well, the gyms just love it because people sign up, and then they don't come back after a month or 6 weeks, maybe, or not. I mean, some people do, but normally what happens is the resolution loses its resolve. Can I say that? Be nasty that way? But we're going to continue, with the 2 week or 6 weeks here. We're going to talk about why when you rewire your thinking, typically rewiring, they say you have to make a habit for 21 days, or some people say 30 days, or we're going to put things in place. Let's be honest about this. I'm going to put things in place. Hopefully, we're going to put things in place that solidifies this so that we have a continuous effort for a longer period of time than a resolution. And so I never make New Year's resolutions. I make goals. We haven't talked about goals yet. And goals are extended from the 5% responsibilities that we took. And so really, if you set a goal, I've set goals that took 2 years to achieve. So you can't compare that to a New Year's resolution, in my mind. If people out there want to chime in and write a note saying that that they only do New Year's resolutions, I'm hoping to convince you that this is better. So can I start my presentation, or do you have?
For sure, go ahead and
Go,
start your
go
presentation.
for it. All right, where's this share screen button? Here we go. I have two monitors. That's the one I want. Okay. So we were talking about your rewirement for success, and I have included my email address on there, your rewirement for success at gmail.com. I know it's wordy, but it's your rewirement for success. And then just Gmail. It's that simple. Okay. Now, this is the second week where we're going to talk about know what you want and why. But before we do that, I just want to do a simple review. So there was going to be over 6 weeks. We're going to do 100% responsibility, or at least start with 5% more responsibility and get a flavor for that and get excited about how that feels when we start taking more responsibility by responding rather than reacting. And the second week, I said, know what you want and why, believe in yourself, the power of goal setting. So we're going to get to goal setting, releasing those brakes on those goals, and then taking action. So we did do 100% responsibility, but here's just a quick review. The formula that we use for rewirement is E plus R equals O, and it's a very simple. I've had people take this formula and paste it on their steering wheel for when they're driving on the highway, and people cut them off or whatever. They look down and they see E plus R equals O. They are responsible in how they react to this event, and they got to keep in mind what their outcome is. Their outcome being they want to safely get where they're going and not get mad, not get angry, not go into road rage or whatever it is that can happen to us. So again, I had somebody say to me, hey, I actually put E plus R equals O on my steering wheel. And I was so impressed by that. So what do we do? What are the events in our life? Well, what can we actually control? We can control our behavior. We control our thoughts. So behavior, what you say and how you say it. So, you control what you say because in the end, you want to get the outcome you want. You control your thoughts, your self-talk, your beliefs, your conscious and unconscious beliefs. You need to get those under control so that you don't see icebergs in front of you like I did. And control your visual imagery. That was what was really affecting me. And it's all about being more responsible, not working harder, not doing more work, but just being more conscious of the moment and being more responsible and responding to get the outcome we want. So a quick review. We talked about taking 5% more responsibility in some area of your life. For me, my life and well-being, well, I actually end up writing an affirmation we're going to talk about in a few weeks. And my affirmation is, I'm feeling alive, weighing 175. That's my affirmation to help remember that I'm on eating keto and that I'm walking my dog every day for exercise. And if the weather permits, riding my bike. Or maybe living with more passion. What could you do to live with more passion? What could you do? Take 4% more responsibility for your goals, for your relationships, or especially for your self-esteem. You got that diploma, you got that, like me, I never put my university graduation diplomas on the wall for 20 years. Well, they're on there now just because when I look at them, when I sit in the living room, I see those diplomas. I am so proud because when I was growing up, I never thought I would ever get a university degree. So I encourage you to find those diplomas, find those things. Take the time to sit down and write what your successes have been. I encourage you to take a piece of paper and see if you can write 100 successes, because you can if you start thinking about it. The things that you accomplished, you thought, oh, I'm not a success. But yeah, you are. You can drive a car, you can ride a bike, you can walk and talk. I mean, those things themselves. How many times did you fall down when you were learning to walk? Yeah, and you got right back up and you learned again because you knew that that goal was so important to you. Somehow you knew it in your brain. It was important, and you did it. So tell me you don't have successes. So let's move on to round 2. Know what you want and why. So that's what I want to talk about today in your ReWirement for Success. To know what you want and why. So one of the things that, the absolute number one first step to getting the things that you want in life is decide what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I had to do when I finally realized, oh, okay, there is not an iceberg there. I'm creating that iceberg. I'm predicting the future for me, but just a minute, sit in the chair. What do I want? That's what I actually had to say to myself. What do I want? What do I want? Now that I've retired, my career is over. What do I want to do? Do I want to learn to play the saxophone? Well, you have to start thinking about it. What is it you want? If you don't do that, you're not going to get what you want. You have to get clear. Well, one of the things that people struggle with when they're trying to take more responsibilities for life, a lot of times there is a difficult situation, a difficult or troubling situation in their life that's taking away their energy, that's taking away their focus at times, that's stopping them from taking the time to go, okay, what do I want with this event? What outcome do I want? Because it's distracting to them. And usually what happens when you have a situation like that, you're creating it. You're pretending not to know something. There's some payoff for you for keeping it in your life. And it's a cost. There's a cost because you don't stay focused. And one of the things that you find if you work through this exercise, what would happen if all of a sudden that went away? Then you can start focusing on moving forward on your goals. So what am I talking about? What actually am I talking about? Well, there's 9 questions that I encourage you to work through. And it actually helps to have a friend work with you on this. And you could each help each other. Maybe you know of something. But here are the questions. If you want the questions in hard copy, you need to send me an email to yourrewirementforsuccess@gmail.com, and I will send you the questions on a sheet of paper you can print off. But here are the questions. So what is the difficult or troubling situation that you keep facing in your life, keeps coming up? So that's question number 1. I'm going to work through these with an example. Question number 2, how are you creating it or allowing it to happen? Because I said, you're creating it, you're creating the situation. Number 3, what are you pretending not to know about the situation that keeps it in front of you? What is the payoff for keeping it like this? There's usually a payoff. What is the cost for not changing it? Well, you keep getting distracted. You keep losing your focus because it pops up in front of you for some reason. Because your brain, subconscious mind knows you need to deal with this. You're not dealing with it. So
can you give an example? Can you give an example?
The example for me when I was at the training, I thought about this. Certainly the big one was retirement, but that I'd already dealt with that earlier in the week, and this came up. And what was a difficult or troubling situation for me was something in my past. And what it was, Monica, was actually the fact that my parents never took the time to really, explain to me about death. Because it really never comes up. It's not a topic that people want to talk about. And unfortunately, what ended up happening is my grandmother died. Well, my grandmother was at an age that, you know, I didn't know her I didn't know her at all. So when she died, she really had no meaning for me. I never sat on her lap. She never held me because they lived the other side of Canada. And as you know, Canada is a big country. So I really didn't know her. So when she died, my mother came to me and my mother said, George, would you like to come with me? Now, this was a mistake that she made. She said, would you like to come with me to the funeral in Prince Edward Island in Charlottetown? And I said, no. I didn't. Honestly, I didn't want to go. I don't know her. And this was a mistake on my part because I thought you went to the funeral for the person that died, and that is not true. You go for the people that are still alive.
How old were you then?
I was 30 something.
Okay.
But I didn't know this. I mean, I'd never been to a funeral. My parents were both still alive. I really did not know that till my father and my mother died. I started to realize what, funerals were all about. Well, and actually, I had a friend of mine die too, a best friend of mine die, and nobody told me about it. When we moved to Calgary, nobody let me know that he had passed away. And I still feel some hurt from that because I didn't get to go and say goodbye. But the fact of the matter was, I was still dealing with the fact that, I felt guilt. And we talked about guilt earlier. I felt guilt that I didn't go with my mother to the funeral. And there's really no reason why I didn't go, except she asked me, did you want to go? Well, that's not what you asked. And I said, no, I didn't want to go. But I felt guilty about that. And so I wanted to address this because it would keep coming up. If I have a picture of my mother on my desk in my office and so on. And I'd see my mother and I go, oh, I should have done this. So the difficult situation, and not something that I could change, was to go back and go to the funeral with my mom. Well, I can't change that, but it is what it is. I had to write it down. So how am I creating this to happen? By not sitting in the moment and going, okay, I want to deal with this. Well, I can't go back and talk to my mom about it. If you believe that she's listening to me, she heard me work through this, but I'm allowing it to happen by not really thinking through what I feel about this and really what happened in the situation. Was there anything that I was pretending not to know? I have to think. I don't know if there's anything I was pretending not to know. I very much know that I didn't go to the funeral, but at the time, I did not know that my mother needed help with this. You understand? She needed someone to lean on, and I didn't really know that at the time. And so it is what it is. Now, the payoff for keeping it was not working through these emotions that are going to come out when I go through this. The emotions, I love my mother. She was always there for me. We had a good relationship, both my mother and my father. I'm the youngest, so the youngest always has the easiest relationship in a family situation like that. And I guess that's part of what I thought too. Why didn't other people go? Why didn't my older sister go or my older brother go? Because I'm the youngest. You understand? But at the time, I just answered truthfully, no, I don't want to go. I don't need to say goodbye to my grandmother. This is what I was thinking. The cost of not changing it was sometimes I would fill up with emotions. I mean, I accepted my mother's death well. I was the executor of the will. I looked after her in the hospital. I have no guilt around that at all. I was there for her every day when she was dying in the hospital, and was there to handle the doctors who wanted to do surgeries that were not going to be helpful, but just because they wanted to practice some doctoring to get experience. And my mother didn't want that. She was dying from pneumonia and the drugs weren't working. She's been a smoker all of her life. Anyway, so the cost of not changing it was cause distractions at the wrong time, because when you feeling stress over something, a lot of times this is when these things pop up too, and distract you from being calm and thinking about what the outcome is in a stressful situation. What would I rather be experiencing? I would rather be able to look at my mother's picture and say, Mom, I did the best thing I could do at the time with the knowledge that I had. And that's really what I ended up coming up with, was because I didn't know any better. I say to her, Mom, you look at my heart, that if I'd have realized that I should have done it to help you, I would have been all over it, because I could have got 4 days off work with pay.
Right.
So there's no reason, I work for DuPont, a good company. There's no reason why I didn't take it. Just, I had no desire to say goodbye to my grandmother. And this is what I was thinking. And I like to share this story because a lot of people need to realize that you go for the other people. I mean, it's just something that I never learned until it was too late, really, in this case. So, is there other actions I would take? Well, no, I can't, because I can't go back and make a correction. I can't write my mother. I could write her a letter, I guess, but she'll never get to read it. You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
But it was a difficult and troubling situation that kept coming up in my life at times. Maybe other people have others, and I really encourage you to work through them, because one of the things that you need to do to be present, really, this difficult or troubling situation, it's in the past, and you don't want to be working in the past when you're trying to work in the present and take more responsibility for your life. You understand? So it doesn't have to be in the past. It could be, something that you have failed to do. Maybe you need to apologize to someone and they're in your life now. Again, I encourage you to work through this, because it's a very powerful exercise. And, the more you do work through it, like I said, you get to the end, it says, when will you take this action that you're talking about taking? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how probable is it that you'll take the action? It's trying to make you write down on paper that you're going to take the steps you need to put this situation behind you.
Are you going to do the questions, to read the questions, or you would wait?
I can read them again.
Okay.
The first question is, what is a difficult or troubling situation that, is in your life that keeps coming up? What is a difficult or troubling situation in your life? Number 2, how are you creating it or allowing it, to happen? How are you keeping it active? What are you doing to not deal with it? hiding from it? Are you getting angry, at yourself, getting angry at someone else? Maybe, I don't know, but this was the example that I came up with. What are you pretending not to know? Is there something that you're pretending that you don't know? Like for me, pretending. Well, I'm not pretending, but I did not know that I needed to go for my mother's sake to help her through the funeral because her mother died, right? And so there's usually something that you are ignoring about the situation, and because you don't want to deal with it. Guilt, especially, is not something that a lot of people like to dwell in. Number 4, what is the payoff for you to keep it like it is? In my case, there wasn't a lot of payoff, but again, not having to deal with the guilt, you'd be surprised what your mind will do to avoid taking that action that you need to take. 5, we switch to the other side. What is the cost to you for not changing it? So this is something, you don't work through these questions in 10 minutes. You need to think about what's it costing you to not deal with this, to not go and talk to that person, have a heart-to-heart talk with that person if you can. What would you rather be experiencing in your life? Try to encourage yourself, to motivate yourself to go get this done. What would you rather be feeling? Maybe you got a friend and you hurt your friend and you still want them as a friend, but you need to go and deal with this to get their friendship back. So what actions will you take, or what requests will you make to get this situation under control? What will you do? What actions will you take? So again, you need to think about this. What outcomes do you want from this? When will you take the action? Because one of the things that we know is that if you don't be specific, you got to be specific about what you're going to do, when you're going to do it. Because if you don't do that, you're going to keep procrastinating and not getting done. So you need to put some kind of time frame on it. And then on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the probability that you'll take this action? If you actually say a 2, you need to go back up through these questions and start over because you aren't committed to actually moving this on from your life. Okay, I know it's a difficult situation. I know it's a difficult worksheet today, but it is one of the things that a lot of times somebody, you're not taking action because you, be what it was, me. There was an iceberg in front of me, literally for months. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I've never felt like that in my life before, and I needed to get to the bottom of it. But luckily, for me, E plus R equals O was because it's the first few exercises that we worked through. Right away, that answered the question. I actually put my hand up. What happens if you have an outcome in your life that you can't seem to resolve? They said, well, what could you for this 5 minutes, what would it be like if you just thought retirement could be positive? And that's all I did. I said, in my mind, I said, not out loud, but in my mind, could retirement be positive? And all of a sudden, all these ideas came to me when they were all blocked before. And that's what a difficult or troubling situation can do. It can block your mental faculties because of all these emotions. They stop you from actually thinking clearly. So I'm encouraging you to at least think about it. Is there a difficult or troubling situation in your life that you need to resolve? I can't answer that question for you, but it is a wonderful, powerful exercise, and it does help to have a friend asking you the questions and writing stuff down that you say. So you need to find someone that you trust.
Because when you have someone that you are working with, you also have someone to hold you accountable to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you can both take the exercise. They tell you what they're going to do. You tell them what you're going to do. You do the exercise together and just hold each other accountable and support each other. Because some of these challenges, the fact that it's holding you back, it means that you are afraid to go there. You don't want to experience the pain. You don't want to experience the trauma. But in order to move forward, sometimes you need to go back, deal with it, and clean it up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's usually a lot of emotions. There's usually fear involved. And we're going to talk about emotions later on in one of the exercises. But emotions can be anything. A lot of times when you're feeling fear, you get angry. So one of the top emotions is anger. But when you start going down and dwelling down in and seeing what are you actually feeling, you're more than angry. Fear is usually one that's down there that brings up anger for some people. So, it's not an easy worksheet, but I'm sure if you think about there's something in your life that you would like to have handled better. It doesn't have to be in the past. It could be happening right now. Maybe one of your children, maybe your husband, maybe your father or your mother. You need to deal with the fact that they haven't, each other. You're not talking for some reason, but you don't like that. You would like to, respect your father, and so you need to deal with the situation. It's not easy, but it's worth doing. That's all I can say, and I encourage you to think about it. If you actually spend half an hour alone and you sit and you think about it, there's something in your life that you would like to deal with in a more responsible way, and this exercise will help you do that. So I encourage you to do that. If we could, I'd like to move on to the next slide, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Excuse me. So taking 100% responsibility for your life and results, that's what we're talking about. And the one thing that I realize, people don't like the word 100%. They want to shy away from that. But every time that there's an event in your life, you always make a choice. One way or the other, you make a choice. So really, I'm not asking you to do something that you're not already doing. Maybe you're reacting instead of responding. However, you are going to make a choice. So the sooner that you actually start thinking about E plus R equals O and the things you can do. And one of the things that this time of year that I like to talk to about people is you don't have to use E plus R equals O the moment it happens. You can use E plus R equals O for the future. One of the things that I did when I was working in my career, when it was 30 below outside, I would often pick my outfit for the next day out the night before, because I know that I don't want to be thinking about it. Maybe it snowed. Maybe the roads are going to be bad. Maybe driving to work is going to take longer. But I would take my outfit, I would take my pants, take my shirt, and I've set up this stand right over top of the heating vent in the bathroom. Bathroom being a small room, it's one of the warmer rooms in the house. I would close the door and I would hang my clothes up on hangers, but over top of the heating vent. And the furnace comes on in the morning at, say, 6 o'clock, and it actually warms up my clothes so that I get this little wonderful feeling to put on a warm shirt and a warm pair of pants in the morning. But also, I've already picked out my clothes so that I don't have to think about that. I don't have to spend time going, oh, okay, what am I going to wear today? Mm-hmm. Now, I know this is easier for a man than a woman, but I am encouraging you to think about, events that happen day after day after day. You can sit and go, okay, well, that event keeps happening. I don't like the outcomes I get when that happens. How could I respond differently? So you can use this formula in advance of the event actually happening. So that's just one way that it's more powerful than people first think when they hear the formula. Mm-hmm. So the power of E plus R equals O. I want to say to you, have you ever felt hurt by what someone said to you? No, somebody said something to you. How did they make you feel? Well, actually, that is not a correct question. That's actually a fake question. They didn't make you feel anything. You made yourself feel by reacting to the event, by reacting to what they said. You allowed them to hurt you. You want to blame them for hurting you, but you let it inside. You actually hurt yourself. Does that make sense? Here's again, I'm trying to show you the power of E plus R equals O. By them saying something that you identified with. They're right. I could lose more weight, or I should get my hair cut, or, my mustache is really stupid. You agreed with them. And then you brought it inside, you internalized it. So the fact is that they said something, but you actually hurt yourself by reacting. Does that make any sense to you at all, Monica? Can you see what I'm trying to say here? It's really...
It's making sense. I can see that, yes.
So you need, again, you got to use the formula. If somebody's saying something to you, you have to think about how you want to respond here. And you don't want to let it inside. Because there are some people out there, they're very good at picking at you. And you eventually want to remove them from your life because they're not good for you. But still, in the moment, E plus R equals O. Don't let them hurt you. And in the end, you're the one that's hurting yourself by saying to you, because you repeat it in your mind. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, I am stupid. Oh, yes, I am. All the negative self-talk. So again, E plus R equals O comes in. Yes.
Someone is agreeing with you here that nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent.
Exactly. That's what I want to get across. Mm-hmm. So don't let it inside. One of the things that we talk about in ReWirement is you need to focus on what you want to be, do, or have. You need to focus on your vision, because what you focus on expands. And there's a catch to this. Mm-hmm. What looks for, what is success for you? What does it look like? These are questions you need to ask yourself. But going back to that question, what you focus on expands. So if you're focusing on your guilt, if you're focusing on blaming others, if you're focusing on finding someone else responsible for your life, you're going to find those people, but you're not going to get, you're not going to move forward with what success looks like to you. Now, not a Buddha advocate, but, Buddha said it himself. He says, what we think, we become. What we think, we become. So if you're having thoughts of guilt, you're having thoughts of blaming somebody else, if you're having negative thoughts about yourself because somebody said something to you and now you've accepted it, that you are stupid, you've internalized it, guess what? What you think, you become. So if you think you're stupid, you become stupid. If that makes sense to you. So Buddha nailed it. So I want to talk about Martin Luther King Jr. I hope everybody knows who Martin Luther King Jr. is. But Martin Luther King Jr. is known especially for one specific speech. And I think everybody remembers his speech. I'm going to remind you of his speech. This is what he said, right? I have a complaint. Do you all remember that speech? I have a complaint? No, nobody's clapping here. What's wrong? No, what does he say? He said, I have a dream. He focused on what he wanted, not what he didn't want. Can you see the power of that? That's how smart Martin Luther King was. He focused on what he wanted to have happen. He focused on the dream, and everybody could see that dream, and everybody, got behind him, and he brought, people forward by focusing on what he wanted in a positive way. But I said to you, there's a double-edged sword here. If he had said, I have a complaint, it would have been the negative side. And everybody would have looked at the complaint and not the dream. And it would have been a totally different reaction. If you can see, I'm using him as an example. But when you focus on what you don't want, it expands as well. So here we are trying to be at least acting as if we're 100% responsible to try and stay positive, to try and stay focused on what we really want to achieve in life. And while we're doing that, hey, it doesn't take any more effort to dream a big dream than it does to dream a small dream. One of the things that Jack Canfield, my mentor, says about this is that the biggest limitation that we all made when we went for 3 weeks training with Jack Canfield, the biggest limitation we made is we don't make our dreams big enough. We're so afraid. We've been so socialized in our life to not ask and not demand for what we really want. I'm going to give you some examples for that. If you don't remember who Jack Canfield is, I want you to go in the library and find the book Chicken Soup for the Soul, and then you'll start realizing who he is. But when we were a baby, babies, did they get what they want? Look at this baby. Look at his face. He wanted that cookie? He got that cookie. Because he focused on what he wanted. Now, maybe the tools that he used, we're not ready to use anymore. We're not going to cry and whine and stomp our feet. I don't know. But the baby, they always get what they want. And then what happened? As we got older, we started to get socialized. We got told, don't touch that. Stay away from there. It's not for you. Don't touch your brother. Eat everything on your plate. You don't really want that. We started to get these negative comments. So that's why I'm saying we got socialized. And then there's the big one that we all are going to hear. I'm sure there's some. I'm sure you all have some. You can't have everything you want. But I want that. No, you can't have everything you want. Money doesn't grow on trees. I don't know who, has anybody out there heard that one? How about don't be so selfish? You got a lot of shoulds, a lot of ought tos, a lot of you betters. So over the years, as we got older, from that kid with that cookie, we started to get, we started losing touch of what we really wanted. And I think that's what I got so hung up with. I mean, at 65, I'm going, well, what do I want? I haven't asked myself that for a lot of years. So what we want to get into the fact is that we have to stop living someone else's dream. If you have a want, you have a desire, let's get it out there, let's state it, and see if we can bring it to fruition. I'm leading up to the what is the I want exercise. So what is the I want exercise? Again, I encourage you to have a friend to help you with this. And it's a very simple exercise. Get a sheet of paper and give it to your friend. And now all I want your friend to do is two things. I want them to write down whatever it is you say. And I want your friend to ask you over and over and over and over again until you fill that page, or we'll give you 20 minutes. Your friend's going to say to you, Monica, what do you want? Monica, what do you want? Monica, what do you want in life? Monica, what do you want? Every time you say that, your friend's supposed to wait for you to say something and you write it down. And maybe Monica says, oh, I want pizza tonight. Okay, you write it down. But what happens is that the first 10 times somebody asks you that, what do you want? You give the easy answers. But if you want to actually figure out what you want in life, you got to ask it over and over. And it really comes better if you have a good friend ask you this question. It's very simple. What do you want? What do you want? Maybe Monica might say she wants to have a TV show on the internet. I don't know, but you need to get to the bottom of what you want and get away from what you don't want and what people said you don't want. Money doesn't grow on trees. Well, what if it does? It does for some people. Why not for us too? So you have to find a friend if you can find a friend. I don't expect you're going to say anything that's going to be a secret, but what do you want? So they need to record your answers for you each time. Actually, on the blank sheet here that I have, there's 20 answers that I'm expecting that you will come up with. Hey, give your friend a copy and you do the same exercise with them. So it's kind of helping each other. So that's the end of week number 2 of ReWirement, your ReWirement for success. There's 2 things that, 2 exercises that we work through, right? We work through a difficult and troubling situation, and now we've worked through figuring out what you want. It might take, half an hour to sit down. What do you want? I'm asking you this right now to you. So while you're thinking there, what do you want? I'm hoping that one of the things that you're thinking was, well, George, I want to continue this process of ReWirement for success. Well, before we can write goals, before we can write affirmations, and before we can release the brakes, you have to know what you want so that then you can write goals. Does this make sense? I hope it does. I will say that next week we are going to talk about believing in yourself. So once you figure out what you want, well, do you believe that you should have it?
Mm.
Is there reasons that you don't believe you should have it? One of the things that will happen, and we've talked about this, is that people have too many, they don't have enough poker chips in front of themselves. So they are afraid to take that, I say risk, it's a word that we use, but to take that step towards creating what they want. So we're going to talk about what can you do to build up your self-esteem, to build up your pile of poker chips. Probably you've got the tools you need right in front of you. Is there any questions, Monica? Do you have any questions for me on?
No, I think most of our audience here are in agreement with what you are saying. Some of them are saying they can relate to the process.
Well, I'm encouraged by that. I mean, I have to admit that when I initially, I didn't go to be trained. I actually went just to hear Jack Canfield speak, and it was a 5-day seminar. We're covering things here rather quickly, but it was a 5-day seminar, and I'm going to tell you, I sat there every day going, oh yeah, some of this stuff, I don't know if I'm telling you, a lot of things that are new, but what I often say is that I kind of push them into the back of my mind. And by going through a training, it pulls them back up to the front of your mind so you can think about it. Is there a difficult trouble situation? And actually taking the time to get asked, what do you want? Because you should do this on some kind of frequency. You shouldn't wait until you get pushed in front of an iceberg to go, oh, what do I do now?
The first
really, I don't want to overload people, but I think those are two exercises that can make a difference in your life. So I hope you do them, because eventually you write some of this stuff down. I'm going to start saying to you, let's make a goal.
Yes, that is true. So the first thing is to remove the obstacle that's holding you back, and then start mapping out where you want to go. And so next week we're looking at, what are we looking at next week?
Next week, believing in yourself.
Believing in yourself.
There's a number of things on that, and if we go further,
I think it's good that we are doing it at the beginning of the year, and I'm hoping that people will take up the exercises. Send an email to George, your rewirement for success. Is that right?
Your rewirement for success at gmail.com. Yes.
Yes, your rewirement for success at gmail.com. And then you'll have these questionnaires. They will help you. These are things that you can even do with your family members. And, you do the exercises. We are stuck at home these days. And so we need to find things that bring growth, things that help us start working towards achieving our goals. It's about achieving our goals and moving forward. Thank you so much, George. And thank you, Sylvia, Riel, and Sipiwe for being part of this discussion, and other people who have also been part of the of this session today. We are excited. I'm excited. I'll also be taking these exercises because we need to keep ourselves being reminded. It's easy to think, I know, But then when somebody reminds you, you realize that, oh yeah, oops, yes. I like this one very much, where I need to keep saying, what do I want? What do I want? And I'm going to go down writing that one and really establish what I want. Thank you so much, George, for giving us the time to, to give the presentation and educating us, helping us refocus on our goals. See you next week.
Okay, Monica. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye.